I've had conversations with multiple business owners who either have completely overcomplicated their project management for their business, or they're completely disregarding it and they're just using a notepad on their iPhone and a Google Sheet to manage everything from their CRM to the due dates on the campaigns that they need to run. So in this video, I've created a no nonsense guide to building systems with maximum leverage. So the way that you need to think about this is first by determining the activity type or the activity group that the deliverables and the services that you provide actually live in. So I'll give a few examples of what these four are. So obviously we have assembly lines, funnels, event handlers, and async on the screen. But what does that mean? Assembly lines are anything where what goes in always comes out. There's one single deliverable. It's the same sequence of activities. There's low variety and extreme depth. So think the creation of a landing page. It starts off with the design of the page and or the creation of the brief, and then moves from the design to the copywriting, and then from the design and copywriting over to the development. But within those stages are internal and external QA systems. So because of that, you'll end up with a gigantic Kanban board with 15 steps, all for the production of one landing page. But they're all there because they need to be there. And it's because you're measured by the quantity and the quality of the things that you produce. So that's assembly lines. Funnels basically describe things where what goes in doesn't always come out. It's the same sequence of activities, and quality and quantity are both also cornerstones, except a lot of the times quality is more so about qualification. And the less qualified people are, the more leaky the funnel is, or the more people leave the funnel, the worse the funnel is. And these are the things that you're basically measured on. Then you have event handlers. These are time specific activities that need to be resolved, basically. So speed to response for anything from customer service to inbox management, appointment setting, all of those good things. Quality and speed are both paramount for these. So event handlers tend to be business types or activity types that require instant notification. And then obviously for funnels, you would sometimes have some event handling situations going on, especially if you're making funnels and you have appointment setters who also work with you that need to be organized for each individual funnel that you make. Again, not to go into specifics or extra excessive detail. This is a no nonsense guide, but funnels, event handlers, they sometimes coincide. And then you have asynchronous activities, or async, as I like to call it. I should really create an acronym for all of these, to be honest. But async activities are high variety and low depth, and require a and have differing sequences of activities. So there may be 5 things that need to be done for a particular sprint, but thing number 2 blocks thing number 1, as you know you would think it would in sequence. But thing number 5 blocks thing number 3, and thing number 4 blocks thing number 2. So there's a bunch of things that need to be done either consecutively or in different orders in order for things to be done. And it's just about clearing the to-do list. These types of activities are usually spread across multiple departments, multiple teams, or they're for people who sit really high above and oversee certain operations. So CTOs who are managing a team of devs, COOs who are managing CSMs and fulfillment people, team leaders, CROs, all of that good stuff. And a lot of fractional work falls in this async bucket as well. So think about what your offer is right now. Think about the thing that you need to do for your offer, and think about which activity group your business actually belongs in. 90 to 95% of all activities will fit in one of these buckets. These buckets have a style upon which the Airtable base that you would make, and I'm saying Airtable for a reason, because stay away from Notion, stay away from ClickUp, stay away from Monday. These Airtable bases that you're going to make are going to look a certain way depending on what the activity group is that you're in. Assembly lines have Kanbans and can also be in a calendar or a list format, very much just based on the UI and very much based on if you want a calendar view. Kanbans being boards, usually are the thing that you would need for most, if not all of these. Assembly lines, funnels, async, and even some event handlers where there are aspects of the events which can be followed up on or need to be revisited can be shown on a Kanban, for example. Like you can create a pre-CRM, which would be an inbox manager's CRM for where there are responses from people who are qualified but have not shown direct interest, then interest, and then meeting booked, for example. So funnels would be Kanbans and CRMs. Event handlers would be lists or Kanbans sorted by create date, urgency, and size. And then you have async being Kanbans sorted usually by number of days it takes to complete or size. So this is where all of the things that with regards to sprints come into play. So sprint size, sprint time, and the number of items on the list, all of those things will be the structure within that this activity will basically reside in. So once you've determined your activity group, you then need to determine what you're optimizing for. Now, this is less about your individual service. In fact, it's less about the individual build and more about your individual service. This is how you make products that can have amazing claims behind them. If you can produce best-in-class transformations, then your risk reversals and guarantees can be larger, and you'll also get huge case studies to boot. This is the creation of what I like to call stellar products, which are products that create best-in-class transformations for basically everybody that comes in, even the bottom quartile of customers. And I'll explain what I mean when I go through these four. Assembly lines, if you can have a really, really quick and really, really fast and iterative speed on, for example, an ad campaign, you can come in and let's say someone is bottom of the qualification bracket for your service. Let's say they make 2K a month and they need to spend 1K in ad spend, and they're like, all right, I'm just going to go into debt to just do this, whatever it may be. If you are able to get them leads and get them if you're able to get them a bunch of leads and you're able to get them leads really, really quickly, even though the first 4 or 5 campaigns are going to be a bust, then you have an amazing offer, because the person who is the worst person for you still gets results. So speed of delivery, quantity delivered, and the quality of that delivery and or the iteration speed on what you deliver are the things that people who are running off assembly line type services will need to take into account. For funnels, it's output ratios. Funnels is built on bottlenecks, and the bigger the bottlenecks are, the leakier the funnel is, and the less the funnel performs. So things like cost per call, booking rates, ROAS, a ton of other examples, right? Like email to lead ratio, if you're positive reply rates, all of these things, they are indicative of what your funnel is and what your funnel looks like, and you need to optimize for improving or decreasing the cost on all of these different ratios. Event handlers, speed, quality, and also the success rate on the response. Because if you, for example, have a cold call script or an appointment setting script or an AI appointment setter, even if the speed of response is really, really good and the quality of them following the script is really good, but you're still not getting great results, then it's usually something that's outside of the speed and quality of response, and is therefore with regards to the success rate of the response, and that would need to be managed. And then for async, it's speed of completion, the percentage of the tasks that are done by the particular due date, and sprint completion percentage. So these are the things that you need to optimize for, depending on what the activity type is that your services lean on. Then number 3 is visually mapping out all the activities on a lucid chart. And it's just as simple as start here, what happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And usually it is outlined in a way, or you come up with the idea of the things that need to be done via linear reductionism. And let me explain to you what that means. So if you have a sales process, which looks like this, you can see visually from the sales process that there's 1, 2, 3 blocks here, and then one tiny block here. If we're talking straight sales, this is prospecting, this is running the sales, this is follow up, and this is closing. These 4 things here are the things that are driving all of the, they're basically driving all of the result for any particular sales process. And you need to have all four of these things in order for it to work. So that's what mapping out the activities looks like. And the linear reductionism part of it is, all right, we have a sale. What goes into a sale? You need to find the people, you need to reach out to them, you need to close them, and you need to follow up with them, and you need to close them. Great. What do those four items look like? If you split them from departments down to systems into tasks, what are all of the tasks in a row? So that is what visually mapping out all the activities looks like. Then you have to build the backend infrastructure. So the backend infrastructure is something that you can go into a lot of detail about this, but I'm actually not going to do that because this is where people can sometimes slip up. And I'll tell you now, number 4 is build the backend infrastructure. Number 5 is build connectivity into the system. And number 6 is making the front end usable. But I'll cover each one in more detail as I get to them. But all 3 of these happen at once. And I'll explain what I mean. When you build the backend infrastructure on Airtable, you build one table per deliverable. So you have, let's say you're doing a landing page agency and you're building landing pages for agencies. Great. You're going to need a table called pages. And that table is going to be run off of that Kanban board is going to be run off of one single select drop down called status. And that status is going to be to build, to develop, to design, to write the copy for, all of that good stuff. You need that table because everything with regards to what that page is will feed into that table. Then you're going to need clients. You're also going to need team. Clients is basically just the client that you're doing the pages for, and team are all of the people that would be assigned to different things or that are part of the operations team. You need those 3 as a bare minimum in every single project management system with regards to basically any department in the business. Then you have dashboard items. Dashboard items are culminations of each action that occurs within the system. So and this is something that is run through automation in the system itself. So if you take an item in the pages board and you move it from ready to design to design, and then from design to QA, then what should happen is a record should be created under dashboard items with all of the information about that card and its movement, and it will have a automatic created date attached to it. With this information in this table, you can then create your own dashboard which states that this is how quickly things are moving along this line. You can have the same thing for event handlers as well. If you have customer service rep coming in and trying to basically work on the intercom line, and there is a message at 10:59, there's a message at 10:28, there's a message at 11:05, there's a message at 11:28. All of these things should come in and fill in those dashboard items so that from a glance, when you create the dashboard, you can sum up those rows and turn things into graphs and charts and stuff. Then you have form collection, which is, in my mind, optional if you don't run end of day and end of week forms or you don't do anything with the information. And then there are the requisite formula fields that you need inside of all of the tables and the rich data that you also need inside of those tables too. So the formula fields would be things like total active clients. So if I come out of this and I show what I mean by that, basically you have inside of, so this is an example landing page agency system that I created. This is the team. This team has 2 account managers, 3 developers, 2 copywriters, 3 designers, and 1 ops manager. There are also a bunch of pages with a bunch of assignees. Now, all of these pages that have different people attached to them are added up in a number of different columns. So we have here a link to the clients, we have a link to the developer, we have a link for the copywriters, we have links for the designers and links for the pages for the account manager. So what this is doing is everybody that is in here, so let's say new page 2, new page 2 appears here under this designer. So Jacob is the designer for new page 2. Making this link and then summing the number of pages means that you can create this formula, which is total active pages. So Jacob has 3 total active pages because he is linked to 3 designer pages, and this count equals 3. So doing things like this and creating roll-up fields and formula fields and a bunch of other stuff that you don't need to get into the weeds with will allow you to do things like ordering this sheet in an automation and giving new people new work. And that's the whole point for creating the fields that you would need to create in that situation. So and again, you're not going to know that you need to do this until you build connectivity into the system. So I've already explained what one of the basic identifiers for what connectivity in the system looks like, which is, distribution of work to people who are more free. The next would be things like onboarding systems for team and for the clients, notification systems for whenever things need to be done by new or new things need to be delivered, new pages need to be created. If you're a landing page agency, new campaigns need to be scraped, or something moves into something else, into another sheet, and that movement means that somebody else has been switched as far as, distribution of work's concerned, or just assigning of different work. Then you have interactive QA systems, and those systems would be things like approval workflows for email designs that you've made, or for short form scripts that you have written. Hey, we just written this new batch of scripts. Please take a look here, click approve or deny, and approve will move the item into the other spot, and that will alert someone else. Deny will alert the client and basically ask the client to fill in some information about what they would change. You can do that for copy, you can do that for design, you can do that for development, in any way, shape, or form. Then there's automations that generate templatized information, whether it be proposals, lead magnets, if you're sending documents as lead magnets, or you're sending like send Spark videos if you're doing video outreach. Then there's contracts and invoices as well, if you work on performance and upon meeting a certain KPI or booking a certain number of calls that were qualified, you get a certain amount of money for that. That would be, you can create the system so that the invoice can be automatically created by just polling the system on a regular day, whether it be the 1st and 15th of the month or the 31st of every month, and generating a bunch of invoices. And then you have sentiment identifiers and request categorizers that push people to different actions, whether it be via just like different AI automations occurring, or by, and this is more so when we're talking about event handlers here, if you have a email coming in from a client and the email, or from a prospect, sorry, and the prospect is asking, hey, what's the price here? I'm not getting on a phone call until you tell me that this is within my budget. You might hear that, and then it may be we need to reply to that, or it may be we need to check if this person is qualified, because if they're not qualified, we're just going to ignore it. You can use AI and sentiment identifiers with automation. You can use AI and automation together to basically determine where things are and what things are, and then from there push them over and do different actions that way. These are just the basics. I've explained some of the stuff that event handlers should always have. I've explained some of the stuff that pipelines and assembly lines should always have, and explained some of the stuff that funnels will also have too. Now, the more tech infused the service is, the more possibilities can actually be leveraged. So a good example of that is any system, any service that relies on a system that has a very weighty API. So looking at cold email, for example, with the drop of a hat, you can spin up cold email campaigns and cold email inboxes and cold email infrastructure outside of that with the click of a button in one go. You can populate all kinds of things just off the onboarding in and of itself, or just off the onboarding form being put in. And even with, I believe Facebook even has its own API where you can create your own ad campaigns, and with the drop of a hat, you have the copy, and you could even take things over to Midjourney to create your static ad creative, and put everything in together, attach the pixel, and then off you go. Like, you can do things really, really quickly when the service provision relies on a system that has a lot of API functionality. So that's building connectivity into the system. And then it's about making the front end usable. Now, making the front end usable in Airtable means adding and moving fields around, making them editable inside of an interface, which looks a little bit like this. So this is the homepage of an interface that I made for a client, and it includes, your students, resources and templates, Trustpilot review tracker. This is for a coaching program, referral tracker, churn recovery tracker. There's also like a mastermind setting tracker, which is also like a mini CRM, and a bunch of other things as well. All of this stuff is centralized on a homepage, and then when you click into each one of these, you get taken to a Kanban or a list of that basically is the pipeline / assembly line for the particular item that the student success team needs to go through. So making that front end usable means organizing the interface and creating fields that then builds some of the back end and also allows you to create extra automation so that there's connectivity across the system in and of itself. So you can see how 4, 5, and 6 basically work together. Number 7, though, is abusing AI. If you're not taking advantage of what AI has to offer right now, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because AI is getting so good so quickly that there really isn't. And once you find a winning formula, you should not have any problems repurposing that winning formula. And I'll show you what I mean. Here's a few ideas just off the top of my head, which will allow you to abuse AI really effectively. 1, all forms of generating copy or generating text. If you need to create the copy for an email, the copy for a website, the copy for it could even be sales scripts. It could be lead magnets, as I've already mentioned before. It could be a bunch of stuff. If you're trying to repurpose that stuff as well, let's say, for example, you're creating voice notes inside of Slack and you're sending that over to the transcripts over to Airtable. Dealing with the transcript itself will allow you to completely revolutionize any extra content that you would make, because you could just talk for 2 minutes. You could just yap for 2 minutes and immediately spit out 15 tweets just like that. So that's all forms of copy generation. This is something that I'm actually doing for a client right now, where there's a button at the top of this Airtable record, and that button is generate script or generate copy. And all they need to do is put in a prompt, and that prompt is create a product page for blank that highlights blank. And that highlights part doesn't even really need to be there, simply because the client is also linked, and information about the copy points to highlight and the copy points to avoid is also in there too. And once that copy is done, the generator prompt will appear, and they can copy and paste whatever they want into Figma, and then they'll have, this is for a landing page agency, and then the landing page agency can just create. And that's it. So that's all forms of copy generation. Then you have AI fine tunes for scripts and content, and for like short form tweets and things like that. If you can fine tune an AI on your top 100 best performing tweets, and then feed ideas into the engine, that feed ideas into the version of GPT which you fine tuned, you now have a tweet engine that sounds exactly like you, uses profanity in the same way that you do, and talks with in the same natural tone that you do, that you don't have to ever worry about things sounding wrong or sounding bad. And you can just go in and just post those all the time. Then you have AI appointment setters, AI inbox managers, all of which are trained on your SOPs, done through something called retrieval augmented generation, which requires either vector databases or, like files and documents uploaded with the prompts. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but they can be created, and they can take over the entire event handling system. After that, we have customer service reps who are also the exact same thing. They can take over the entire system. You will end up solving 80 to 90% of the problems that you're going to run into by moving from a man behind intercom to AI and a man behind intercom, because the man behind intercom just won't get spoken to for the most part. Then you have the ability to create to-do lists via meeting notes and auto assign those tasks to all specified members of a team. This is something that's just been recently released by ChatGPT, and OpenAI have now made this available. They've made a function available in GPT 4.0 where anybody using the API can put in one line of code, and it will take the text and it will just fish for to-do lists, and it will spit out a structured list of assignees, tasks, and due dates for everything. So if you are in the async bucket and a lot of the work that you do is high variety and low depth, or you're responsible for 5, 10, 15, 20 people that you've been speaking to on a call, and you need to make sure that they're doing the thing that they need to be doing, you can have AI create all of the to-dos now. You don't need to touch your Kanban. Your Kanban will be populated. That is the power of the stuff that's coming out as we speak. This literally came out the other day. It's really a this is a really recent finding. And then you have AI agents that perform tasks from a private Slack chat, for example. Now, AI agents, too complicated to go into. Just think normal AI spits out structured outputs. Those structured outputs fuel automations which perform actions. That's about as simple as AI agents can go. And the AI agent is trained on certain information, so it knows what action it needs to take. So you can hook up a and I wish Make could do this. I think Zapier might be able to do this now, but there's things like Crew.ai and things like that which will allow you to create AI agents where all you're doing is something goes in, and then you have and then it goes into the AI agent. The AI agent fishes around the database to find information on the thing, and then that information spits out some sort of code which it speaks to itself, and then a certain number of tools can be done from there. And that's basically how that will work. But again, we're still talking about getting to a point where we can optimize for the production of crazy services and products. Because if adding AI doesn't do anything for speed of delivery or quantity delivered, and my whole business is making websites, then why am I using AI? It shouldn't be slowing me down, and it shouldn't be reducing the quality or quantity of delivery. And it shouldn't be slowing me down as far as iteration is concerned. The key is always to optimize for the production of ridiculous products. Each tool that you use is part of a greater goal as defined by your activity type. And if you can make this as effective as you can, this will be your moat. And if you can get a winning formula down pat and codify it, you can leverage AI, automations, templates, and systems like this to make everything work smoothly for you. So just to summarize, 1, determine your activity group. 2, determine what you're optimizing for based on the activity. 3, you need to visually map out the activity. 4, you need to build the backend infrastructure. And again, 4, 5, and 6 are together here. You need to build the backend infrastructure out, build connectivity into the system, and build the front end to make it usable. And then 7, you need to abuse AI. And once you get there, you then need to iterate. Because 1, job's not finished. The job is not done the moment that this is made, because you now need to work within it and determine if everything that's been made has been fit for practice. There's going to be some minor adjustments that need to be made and all that good stuff. But this is just the structure that you need. There is information hidden between the lines that you'll only grasp when you're in the field. So I make these types of systems for businesses all the time. It's only after 30, 60, or 90 days that I realize, or that I see what the actual system grows to become, because people will have their own way of doing things, and people will also find ways to make what you're doing better. So you'll be able to find the same thing for yourself. So in summary, that basically covers how to create a project management system for yourself. If you've been dilly-dallying with this and you've just not gotten this sorted, it will take you 2 hours to do even a modicum of some of the stuff that I've mentioned. If there's any problems that you're having with regards to, for example, the connectivity parts of this, watch some of my previous videos, because I've actually got blueprints to a lot of what some of these are, and more of these are going to be coming out on my channel anyways. So yeah.